All right. Oops, I almost clicked leave meeting. Well, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to Boston Urban Forest Friends. For those returning and to anyone new, I'm the host, Jarrell Ferguson, Community Outreach Manager here at Speak for the Trees. Thank you for your positive feedback from September. We keep filling out those surveys. A survey will be inserted in the chat at the end of our meeting. Having those filled out is super important and helpful for us to help us shape the direction of Buff and the work that we can all do collectively. It's an honor to be here with you this autumn, this fall, and to have you here with us as part of our amazing community of tree lovers, advocates, and friends. Hence our name, Buff. So, David, do you have the slideshow up? I don't see it. I just have a really pretty background there.
Sorry, did you not see the slideshow?
Nope.
Let me try again. Sorry about that.
No problem. That background's really pretty though.
Do you see it now?
There we are. Yes.
Okay.
Wait, go back to the first picture because I selected that specifically for the fall. There we go.
Sorry, I thought that was up. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll shut up now.
That's in Boston. I can't remember where it's from, but it's a picture that I borrowed from, I think Boston, fall last year, but it's a really pretty picture. All right, next slide, David. All right, so here are our agenda items for the day. Community updates. We have meeting norms, community updates and announcements. Yes, Tiantian, please send the link again if people are still in the waiting room. Thank you. We have Zoe Davis joining us today from the Climate Resilience Project. She's a Climate Resilience Project Manager for the City of Boston, Office of Environment, Energy, and Open Space. We also have Oliver Sellers-Garcia today. He's our Green New Deal Director for the City of Boston. And we will get ready to get started with community updates. Yes, meeting norms, sorry. These are our norms, so please try to adhere and follow them. But we're all friends here. We want everyone to be comfortable and try to get everything out. Okay, next slide. All right, we will have our community updates. So if anybody would like to start, just please raise your hand and let us know what's going on in your world. Hey, Erica, you're first. Go for it.
Hey, I just wanted to share that I was really excited to be able to plant some trees with Power Corps Boston and the Mass Audubon Environmental Fellows at the Boston Nature Center last week. And then also we did a TD Tree Days planting. And yesterday I had some little kids help me plant a tree. They just happened to be walking by. I wonder if I can share my screen for a second, just because it was really cute. It's disabled for me, but if people want to see the pictures of the little kids planting the tree, I would love to share my screen. It's just been really great. I think we're at 50 trees at the Boston Nature Center. We're trying to bring back some understory and bring back some native species. And we planted a tree border around a solar pollinator garden that we did this past spring. So just a lot of tree planting going on in this one specific place right now.
Erica?
I'm excited. Yeah.
I think you're co-host if you want to just share your screen.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see that?
Yeah.
my little helpers.
Oh, wow.
And actually, it was really awesome. One of these kids came up to me and he's like, "Did you know that those have lights?" And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Those roots have lights. When they touch another one from another tree, they light up." And I was like, that is the best description of tree roots that I've heard in the past year. And it's from, I don't know how old these kids are, like 5 or 7. I can't really tell. And then a picture of the Power Corps team and the environmental fellows. We planted some 350-pound trees. So it was really good stuff. And, everybody was so happy. So I just like to zoom in on the faces, and we had a really good day. So thanks for letting me just share that. That's the end of my update.
That's awesome, Erica. Great pictures, and it looks like you had a really awesome time. That's cool. That's really cool. It's always great to get babies involved. All right, Claire, your hand's up next. You're on mute.
No, she's not.
I just wanted to give an update. So some of you may remember that during the last legislative session on Beacon Hill, which ended in July 31st, we had a bill called the Municipal Reforestation Bill that would have required statewide urban forest plans for municipalities. And that bill, for a couple of reasons I won't get into, it got out of committee, but it didn't really go anywhere. One of our sponsors moved away and we lost our funding stream. But we heard from the other sponsor who was in the Senate that she's really excited. She's talking it up and she may be getting a letter of support from the Massachusetts Municipal Association, which would be a really great endorsement. So stay tuned because we are hoping to find a sponsor on the House, on the House side, and then try to work it through in some form, maybe some amended form during this session. And of course, the sessions are 2 years long. So it would be passed in 2024, I guess. But anyway, stay tuned. It's exciting. I'm glad to hear that all that work is living its life forward.
And for you policy nerds out there, I don't want to forget, there's also continued effort to pass the updates to the Chapter 87 as part of that. I know it's not as sexy, but it's just as important.
Thank you, Claire and David. Molly Henry, you're next.
Hi, everyone. I have two quick updates. One is that if any of you have been part of the Tree Equity Score Analyzer, you're probably already aware of this, but it's our deep dive tool that helps you kind of interact with the canopy layer and other supplemental data that you all have chosen, so as the stakeholders, that will help you determine where you should prioritize tree planting. And we're really excited that next Tuesday is our third and final stakeholder meeting. And then we're going to be having a broader socialization and training of the tool. So if you're interested, keep an eye out. I'll make sure that when we get the date for that Jarrell can maybe share it with this network. And it's super awesome because you can create your own custom scenarios for planting and actually quantify the benefits of that project. So a really great way to make a case, advocate for funding, all sorts of great ways to use it. One other announcement is that we have the climate vulnerability assessment and the species selection guide that we've developed with the Forest Service and their research arm, the Northern Institute of Applied Climate Science, that we call NIACS. So they're finishing up that work, and they're actually offering a free workshop series to actually dig into the work and think a little bit more about how to create a more climate adapted urban forest for the Boston area. So I have a link to the Eventbrite to register for that. It is free. You just have to register for all three of them, though. We do ask that they're 90-minute sessions. And you're going to be led by some really awesome facilitators who are scientists and researchers and really can be a great just kind of opportunity to dig into this material. So I will send the link in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. Yeah, I was going to ask you to do that, and then I can send out a more formal information to the entire group. All right, Lisa Beatman. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
I'm here representing the Crane Ledge Woods Coalition, which many of you know is a effort by several community neighborhood leaders in Hyde Park and Rosendale and Mattapan to save the 24-acre Crane Ledge Woods. I guess our update is that we have started to be in talks with Arthur Jemison, the new-ish chief of the BPDA. I'm also going to drop in the chat a link to our latest newsletter that does have more detailed progress updates, and really good to see you all.
Thank you, Lisa. I was actually in Newton last weekend, and I bumped into a few people that had a Save Crane Ledge Woods Drive thing. And I didn't get to talk to them because they were surrounded by so many people. But I gave a thumbs up to them, like, just to let them know that I knew, what that was all about. So that's cool.
Wonderful. In our newsletter, we do have links to if anybody wants a yard sign. And also, of course, the link to our website. That was great to hear.
Thanks, Lisa. All right, Melissa, you're up next.
Hi, thanks so much. I always try to bring a little word from across the river in Cambridge because we are attached. So here's the word I bring now. I just want to point out how nature itself can be perhaps the best motivator and best messenger. When we as humans very much fail to do what we need to do to support nature. And I say that because we all experienced a severe drought this summer. And what happened in Cambridge is the severe drought came as the lack of investment in the irrigation system that supported the trees in one of our best and most used parks in our city also took the occasion to stop working. There had been pleas to fix this system long before, but you know how these things get put off and put off and put off. So when the trees turned brown, when the entire landscape turned brown, it began to occur to people that perhaps investment like this was an important thing to do. And I'm happy to say that four of our city councilors put together a policy order which passed unanimously 2 weeks ago. And that is to create a new irrigation system in Danahy Park. And also that same policy order asked the city to renew its commitment to its urban forestry master plan. And I do think that Cambridge watches what Boston is doing. And I think the fact that Michelle Wu is doing what she's doing and making these issues so visible has an impact on what we're able to do in Cambridge. So I just want to say thank you to Boston, and let's just keep listening to nature. It's often our best messenger.
Thank you so much, Melissa. Always great to hear from you and what's going on across the bridge. So we appreciate you. Thank you very much. I just had a really quick update. I was browsing the internet and I came across a very interesting article that was from 2020. It's about winter trees and how, you can continue to appreciate trees throughout the winter, even though many of them don't have leaves. So I'll put a link for it in the chat. You all can feel free to check that out. But it's a really cool article and some great pictures too. Also, just to let you all know that we are having a tree giveaway this weekend in Roxbury at the Thornton Street Farm. You can find out information about that on our website, on our events page. We'll be out there all day, and if you want to come by, say hello and hang out and just come meet some of us, meet all of us. We'd love to see you out there if you're available. But I can put that information in the link, but it's on our website under events. All right, David, you're up. Sarah, there you go. Sorry. Hey, Sarah, good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I got here a little late, so I don't know if anyone talked about this, and it's not a feel-good update, so I will try to be brief, and if anyone wants to follow up in more detail, they can reach out to me afterwards. There are a couple of areas in the city that feel like the Green New Deal is not really treating them very well. And one of them, the Shattuck Hospital, is state property, but there's been some coverage of Franklin Park really taking some negative impacts lately. And one of the neighbors, I don't live right next to the park, so this is not me, speaking personally, but I'm very sensitive to the people who are close to the park. They're giving tours of all the needle areas where if it's really increased. A guy has a whole website tracking the increased 311 calls. There was the high profile stabbing in the city part of the park earlier this week, which may or may not be related, but it feels like the state is doing things at the Shattuck Hospital site and the impact is being felt in the city park. And it kind of raises the larger issue of, can the city have a voice in the upcoming planning and not miss this opportunity to do better by Olmsted's signature park in Boston and still find a way to provide recovery. As last winter, when they were dismantling Mass and Cass, everyone was saying decentralized, regional problem, yet the proposal is for 400 plus units at the Shattuck, which does not feel decentralized. And I won't take us off topic, but while I have the floor, I don't see anyone here from the Friends of the Community Stewards and Friends of Malcolm X Park. But again, a part of the city that maybe feels like the Green New Deal is not so green for them. A couple dozen, 29, I think, trees were removed in order to make the park ADA compliant. But even the trees that remain, some residents have been writing diligently to the city about the construction impacts and heavy equipment on critical root zones, and just wonder what is, I know it's an awkward conversation to have, but can we do better in those sites and any others? So thank you. I'll put, I can put a few links in the chat during the meeting, and I'll put my email. Thank you for listening and for all you're all doing.
As always, thank you, Sarah. Really appreciate that. I think that might be a great question for you, Oliver, maybe a little bit later. If you wanted to touch on that, we do have the director of the Green New Deal here. But thank you all for your community updates. That was, it's always a pleasure hearing from you and hearing what we have going on around the city. I will pass it over to David, who changed the screen on me. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, I just wanted to give a quick update. Some of you, or probably most of you, or all of you, read the news that Boston has released its first urban forest plan, and it's live. It's on the website. It's a really ambitious plan, but I just wanted to give sort of the high level here. The plan is being guided by 4 goals. I've listed them here. Equity first, proactive care and preservation is second, community-led, and finally prioritizing and valuing degrees. And those goals have strategies, 7 strategies. So you can sort of dig in on the plan on the website itself to see how those strategies play out. It's exciting to see that there's going to be, I believe, 12 new positions in the forestry department. Many of those are live. So if you have a chance, or if you know of arborists or people interested in forestry, please share out those new opportunities. They're meant to be competitive. I think the arborists, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Zoe or Oliver, but I think the arborist positions do not require residency, but most of the other positions do. So that's a nice little carve out. So, in the coming months, and you'll hear from Zoe in a minute, there's going to be a lot of work and opportunities to enact this vision. It's a 20-year vision, right? So we're not going to solve everything today in a 1-hour meeting. We're not going to solve everything in 6 months. It's going to take a long time to build out this department, but this is a really exciting opportunity. And I encourage people to learn more about what the short-term and long-term goals are. I think we should probably devote a future session to digging into that and thinking about how we as a network can advocate for and support this vision, and where we see shortcomings, but also opportunities. lend our voice. So just wanted to share that out, and we can drop a link, of course, to the plan if you haven't seen it yet. And yeah, with that, I didn't write the UFP, so I don't feel comfortable answering questions on it, but we do have two members from the administration here who might be able to answer questions on it. But before we do that, I wanted to just give the floor to Zoe.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Would it be possible for me to share my screen real quick?
Of course. Yeah.
Awesome.
Let me just find you here. There you are. And I will stop sharing mine.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
So I just have a quick presentation. I thought it could be a little easier to just share a bit about the RFI that David had referenced. I'm sure some of you are already aware, but for those who are not, the city recently released a request for information to help us better understand how we might support tree canopy planting and growth on private land, and how we can partner with community-based organizations, nonprofits as well, to do this work. So I just wanted to share a bit of an overview about the RFI, what it is, and how you can get engaged into this in this process. So just for some context, with the completion of the urban forest plan, as well as the heat plan, which was released later in or earlier in April, the city is investing in strategies for long-term health and safety of residents. And so this also includes planting trees, maintaining trees to reduce urban heat island impacts and increase health and well-being overall. So now that these plans have been released, we have the tools to build out a sustainable and holistic strategy for growth of the urban forest. What this program is targeting is tree planting and maintenance on private lands, because over 60% of our tree canopy is privately owned and controlled. And so just to connect this work to what the Forestry Division is doing, the new positions that have been created, it's really exciting to see. And these folks will focus on city-owned public lands. So there's a moment where we're trying to support tree growth on private land, because that's a space where the Forestry Division will not necessarily be focusing in. There's also a few challenges for the city with working directly on privately owned lands. So first, as I had mentioned earlier, the tree planting and maintenance work of the Forestry Division is focused on city-owned public lands. And additionally, some of the challenges that the city faces is also related to some of our legal and fiscal constraints with working on privately owned lands. And then another thing to note here is that the Forestry Division, their focus is on planting and maintenance. And so for this type of work to engage the diverse stakeholders, landowners involved in this, we would really need a robust engagement strategy. And so support is needed here for dedicated organization and outreach. This isn't necessarily the focus of the Forestry Division, and so we would be looking to nonprofit partners like yourselves, whose skills in this area are pretty widespread and well known across our communities. So just to give, I think, a bit of additional context for the type of model that we are exploring, and again, this is an RFI, so we're open to other thoughts here. But we're looking at a model that has been used in the city of Montreal, But given Boston's context and its challenges, we're looking to adapt this model, which I'll explain in just a bit, to Boston's context. So in this model that Montreal uses, the municipality enters a formal contractual partnership with a single organization, one organization, and then that organization serves as the fiscal agent, the organizer, and the convener of other supporting organizations that are a part of the alliance. So the alliance then creates its own governance structure, and it allows ideally for all various types of organizations, large and small, to participate in the decision-making processes, the actual planting and maintenance, as well as accessing the funds that are necessary to participate in this work. So for the Alliance in Montreal, I will say that this program began with funding primarily through the city, but now the Alliance in Montreal is supported through institutional, philanthropic, as well as state dollars as well. So what we're asking through this RFI is we're asking for your insights on how the Montreal model, the Alliance model, could be adapted to Boston's context. Broadly, how could we support tree planting and maintenance on private lands? But we are also interested in understanding what are the types of resources and structures that organizations like yours would need to meaningfully participate in a program like this. And the reason why we're taking this approach, this first step of issuing an RFI, is because this is new for Boston. And there's a lot to learn here. And so we'd like to learn from and brainstorm with you and your organizations like yours and others. So in this process, we'll present as much information as we can. We'll share as much about our hopes for this as we can. But the reason why we're putting out an RFI is because we would love to hear from you all on how you think a program like this should go. So that said, we're really excited to read your written responses. For folks who are interested in submitting, there are a couple of ways that you can share some written responses. The first is through a Google form. I can post that in the chat. I can do that right after I'm finished sharing my screen. But you can also email me directly with responses to the questions that are in the RFI, and I will also post the RFI in the chat so you all can take a look at it. But so you're aware of the timeline here. We had posted the RFI publicly, I believe that's last week, October 4th. We just held our Q&A session, our discussion session yesterday. And so the Q&A period is, or I should say the period for receiving questions has closed, but we will post the questions and answers publicly so everyone can know what was discussed in that conversation yesterday. I will also share the slide deck. It's very similar to this one. So expect to see that on Monday. And then the final submission date is the 28th of October. So again, really looking forward to reading your responses. I will go over this in just a minute, but what I do want to share is after the responses have been posted, what we will do is we will share a summary of all of the responses that will be made publicly available. So a few things to keep in mind for folks who are looking to submit a proposal. This is, again, it's an RFI. It's not a competitive procurement or contract award process. So that essentially means that no contracts or funds will be awarded on the basis of responses. This is purely for information. Another thing to note is that all of your responses to this RFI will be public record because the city is subject to public records law. So any sensitive information, we would ask that you refrain from sharing in your RFI response. And then the last thing to keep in mind is that by submitting your responses, this essentially authorizes the city to publicize, refer to, and use your responses as it sees fit. So if you're interested in responding, please keep these things in mind. And I think that is all that I have. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm going to post some of those links that I had mentioned in the chat. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have right now. Again, we have our Q&A coming out on Monday. I myself may not be able to answer all of your questions, but I will certainly do my best.
Thank you, Zoe. And yesterday was really illuminating for us who were there, very helpful to hear your thoughts and Chief Mariama's thoughts yesterday at that meeting. So this is an exciting opportunity, and please, yeah, if folks have questions or ideas, Zoe's great.
Thank you so much, Zoe. Yeah, that was really awesome and enlightening for me. I'm still learning a little bit more about it, but thank you very, very much. You know, we're trying with our tree giveaway tomorrow. You know, we're trying to get people to plant those trees in Roxbury in their homes so they can increase the canopy in Roxbury. Hopefully everybody who will be there will be planting them in Roxbury, but we'll do our best to keep them on track. Susan, you have a quick question?
Hi, yeah. I'm on the Arlington Tree Committee, and this is so interesting to hear, Zoe, and I'm very excited to follow up with what Boston is doing. I knew about their plan. I didn't know about their private tree initiative, which is exactly what we've been talking about in Arlington for a while. With threshold questions being such as, is it okay for us to put trees on private property using public resources, buying the trees, planting, et cetera? Is that okay? And I think our town council feels that if it's for the public good, which as Zoe pointed out, I mean, trees, no matter where they are, benefit everyone. But I would be interested in what those conversations have been in Boston, is how legally they justify using public money to plant trees on private property.
Yeah, that's a good question, and I am certainly no legal counsel. But what I will say is that we can do this essentially through the process of re-granting. So we've also done this with our Cool Groups program as well. We have public dollars. We partner with, well, essentially we grant those funds to a nonprofit organization. They then work with private landowners to install cool roofs on their properties. So that sort of re-granting model is something that we've done before, but I think there are some questions for us around like the governance structure of the alliance. There are some questions, there were a lot of questions yesterday around conflict of interest. So for organizations participating in the alliance, can they then participate in sort of other related work if they're already a part of the alliance? And those are questions that honestly we have to go to our legal counsel to really flesh out. I'm seeing that in the chat there is a request for permissions to access this. It should be open to everyone, but let me troubleshoot.
I do want to leave time for Oliver here. I will just say in response to your question, Susan, I don't know if she's still here. Right? Oh, there she is. I know that the state has been doing this for years at the beginning of the Gateway Cities model, right? So the state has figured this out. They're providing public funds for private plantings. that's another place to ask the question. You're muted.
Thanks so much for pointing that out, David.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Zoe. I want to leave some time for Oliver. So Jarrell, I turn it back to you.
Yes, all right. Moving on to one of our other featured guests. Let's welcome to Boston Urban Forest Friends, Buff, the Green New Deal Director for the City of Boston, Oliver Sellers-Garcia. Good morning, Oliver.
Hi. Oh my gosh, I can't stare at a picture of myself.
Oh no, we won't leave it there.
Please skip to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Well, first you have the best acronym and also like some of the best backgrounds. All of you, I'm here in this like interrogation room that is my office. So man, a lot to be. I'm gonna have to step it up for the next meeting, but so I know some of you already, and in my month in this position, I have met some of you, and I've just been trying to have as many meetings to just introduce myself and say hi. So I think there will be some of you who have to hear a little bit of this for the second or third time. Apologies, but I'm just going to do a really quick introduction about myself so that as we start working together, you just know a little bit more about me and what my role is all about. And so I'll just get to it. So Oliver Sellers-Garcia, I am the director of the Green New Deal for the City of Boston. I sit organizationally in the mayor's office, and really my role is to work across across the city. So prior to coming to the City of Boston, although I've lived in the city for many years, I worked at the MBTA, leading a program on climate resiliency and equity in the capital program. So that's sort of like all the big design and construction projects. And then before then, I spent 7.5 years as the sustainability and environment director in Somerville, where I got to know many folks here in the city of Boston, including Zoe, who was one of my favorite partners on some really cool projects. So it's just so nice to, just be across the aisle from some of my new colleagues. And so I will say that it's kind of like a fun shift to be in a familiar place, but in a different role. And what I've noticed when I go around talking to people is that everyone is extremely excited about the Green New Deal. And then the next question is, what is the Green New Deal and what are you going to do about it? So I think there is some, I'm collecting that feedback, but I also think there's some validation in that, Mayor Wu has laid out so many priorities and an extremely expansive vision of what it means to tackle, climate and equity and economic opportunity simultaneously, and what that encompasses in terms of a vision of a city in the future where we've really taken advantage of the action that needs to be taken to make our city more livable and healthy and inclusive. I have a job that's like a level or two down in terms of really pushing that forward. So what that means is, on a timescale basis, setting priorities for what we're going to get done, and really trying to expand the ways that we partner inside the city and outside of the city to implement. And really, I think one of the key challenges is that a lot of things that come up, it's not necessarily that there's a technology that hasn't been invented or something like that. It's really sort of problem solving with the local government context that we're in, which is incredibly powerful and beneficial, but is not without its constraints. And I'm a city planner by training. My passion is figuring out all the weird things that need to happen sort of on the policy and design and construction and partnership and funding side to move some of these things forward. So this has been such a nice meeting to come to because I've gotten to listen to what you're talking about on this particular month and what some of your priorities are. And what I'll say is that kind of as we start figuring out what this looks like on a really concrete basis, I'm always going to be coming back and saying like, what's important to you? What are your priorities? Let me get not just like a list, but like a sense of, you know, who to talk to and where to go on these sorts of things. So, and then I'll just address the obvious, which is, you know, we are in such a good moment to really invest and move forward on trees and tree canopy because of the plans that Zoe mentioned. The heat plan and the urban forestry plan are sort of fresh, and they had incredibly inclusive processes. I know all of you participated in those. And so I think we're in a pretty good spot for figuring out where to go next. Not that it's ever easy and that there aren't trade-offs, but I'm extremely optimistic about the interest and support and planning that we're in this moment right now to move forward on trees. So that's kind of my high level introduction. And of course I can answer some questions. And what I will say is the main thing is we're going to be talking more. So let's just get ready to have more conversations.
Oliver, thank you so much. You are always welcome back. And we would love to have you back again, you know, as the plan, you know, progresses. But I will leave it open to questioning. Erica Holm, there you go. First question.
I would like to know, Oliver, if you have a favorite tree or any like personal tree story that you would like to share with us.
Oh, what a good question. So I will confess, I'm not like an arborist, but I actually moved. So I moved in the spring from East Boston, where I had one tree on my block, to Roxbury, where I'm not going to take any of Jarrell's trees because there is one tree on our condo property that is right outside one of my windows, and I am delighted that I get to like just see it grow. I think I would say it's probably maybe like 4 feet tall. Someone will have to come and tell me what kind of tree it is. But I feel like I'm gonna be living there for a long time, and it's just gonna be fun to see a tree mature.
Well, we'll be there on tomorrow. So, you know, just point us in the right direction. Someone on our team will be able to tell you what type of tree it is.
I live on Moreland Street across from Gertrude House Park. Someone please go look at the tree on that corner and tell me what it is so that I'm not embarrassed the next time someone asks me that story.
All right. Lisa Beatman, you're next.
Okay, well, welcome, Oliver. Really good to see you here. Let's see. So I'm going to read this question really fast because I couldn't make it short. So I understand both the constraints about preserving trees on private land, which are based on longstanding laws and policies that were enacted long before our current climate crisis, and during times when environmental and public health inequities were taken for granted, if not intentionally perpetuated. There are currently movements in the state to protect currently unprotected forests as carbon storage and biodiversity preserves, which would be recognized as critical green infrastructure and wouldn't be subject to the expectations there are for parks and official urban wilds. So how can we introduce and implement like carbon storage and biodiversity preserve policy for the city of Boston and try to save the rapidly diminishing woodlands that remain, but are under immediate threat of clear cutting by development, particularly in environmental justice communities like Crane Ledge Woods? Thanks.
Well, that's such a good question. And I think you can probably guess that I don't have like and here you go, here's your answer. But so what first I'll say is just sort of like, thank you for raising the complex issue there that this group appreciates more than any. I will say that I think, well, so I have a two-part answer. So one is that I do think that the urban forestry plan, what it does in a way that I think is so important is to really, this is not news to you, but like in the public, it just makes more space for the conversation to be about conservation and maintenance. I mean, I think not to, you know, look down on efforts, but like there was this whole previous generation where we all just sort of measured success by how many trees were planted, and that's just like not the full picture by any means. So I'll just say, I think that you're highlighting and responding to what I hope is like a message that we can get out more. Specifically, I do think that when I think about how we're conceptualizing of, you know, ways to measure what we're doing with the Green New Deal and how that leads to investments and priorities, I think it's also really important to think about what you're raising, which is, you know, trees have all sorts of different benefits, and they also kind of accrue into larger ways of thinking about benefits and carbon, which is just like not the way we always measure things, which is sort of like greenhouse gas emissions emitted, or that's redundant, but you know what I mean? Like there's embodied carbon and carbon capture. And I think that without getting too heady here, we are going to succeed if we have like, you know, a few priorities, trees definitely on that list, where we're accounting for their value in different ways. And that kind of hits a bottom line that we all feel kind of comfortable saying might not look just like a financial bottom line. So what I will make a note of, because I don't want to give you like a totally fluffy answer, is that yeah, thinking of a policy pathway that is much more oriented toward conservation is feedback that I'm receiving from you, and I'm making note of it.
All right, thank you, Oliver and Lisa. David Meshalam, you have a question?
So I want to quickly respond to Lisa, and then I question not nearly as interesting a question as Lisa's question. Lisa, I think there's an opportunity, and we had talked about this in the past, to create a committee, whether it's through Buff or other spaces, to sort of explore what an ordinance or something like that looks like. So when and if city council or approaching city councilors, thinking through with them what the priorities are, because there's an administration side and then there's the legislative side. So you know, we hope that this space can be generative for those types of committees and conversations. And I think with the urban forest plan highlighting the need to preserve and protect trees, that's sort of a platform that we now can stand on. So it's not all on the administration. You know, I hope there's leadership there on this issue, but I think it's also behooves us to start giving ideas and structure. Oliver, I had a less sexy question than Lisa's, and that is, I'm curious in terms of the lack of a better word, sort of the silos within the city, where exactly you stand, who do you report to, what's your purview, because it is a new position, and I don't know if those things have been hashed out yet. I'm not familiar with exactly who you're under or above, so to speak.
I report to the mayor. The mayor has about half a dozen senior advisors who are all new positions like mine that are intended to, you know, do exactly what you implied, is work across those proverbial silos. And none of us are running like huge departments. So Reverend Mariama is like, I'm a huge fan of hers, and everything she does on trees is like, you know, I can only follow, but she has a huge team to work on and doesn't control everything that touches trees. Of course, you know, there's like public works, and then there's law and procurement, you know what I mean? So like in theory, many of the senior advisors like myself are working directly with the mayor and intentionally working across the city to do exactly what I mentioned, which is like, we've got this thing that we want to accomplish, and we don't actually have a normal like muscle memory for all of the different parts of the city and partnerships that have to be involved in it, because we're doing new things.
So just a quick follow-up, does anyone report to you?
I will soon have positions posted. If you
Okay.
know anyone who would like to report to me.
But Mariama doesn't report to you, for example. You're sort of.
On a like a organizational basis,
Yeah.
I'm not between the mayor and any of the chiefs, but on a convening basis on either sort of like the Green New Deal in general or specific topics, I do kind of take the lead on coordinating some things. But I personally, having been a, you know, municipal official for a long time in a prior role, I really like more of kind of like the, you know, collaboration of peers approach to how we do things.
That's helpful. Thank you.
All right, we have time for one more question, unless Oliver, you can squeeze in two. But I wanted to
I do have a noon meeting. I'm looking
Okay.
at it, but I'll go as far as that. Yeah.
All right, Sarah Freeman, you're up next.
Hi, I feel like I already spoke.
Hi again.
Hello again. So I feel like I said most of my piece at the beginning, and I'd like to know how to follow up. Like, would you attend a meeting, or can we set up a time to go more in depth on those questions? And then my second point, which is separate, is some of us who are very excited about the Green New Deal, like you described, are hearing a lot more about green transportation, green buildings, which are huge. But the tree element, even though the plans are recently revealed, is a little more vague and fuzzy, and just want to put in a plug to elevate the green part of that, nature part of the Green New Deal.
Yeah, that's I really appreciate that feedback. As I've been thinking about how to communicate the Green New Deal, trees are so interesting because they could be, they are like a standalone priority, but they're also such an important component of others. So when, you know, like, I think it just depends on how we want all to talk about it in different moments to the best effect. But it's like, you know, the priority is health. Trees are an enormous part of that. The priority is like, what do we do with our streets? Trees is an enormous part of that. When we think about like what makes for better like rental housing, which is like, you know, what most people in Boston live in, it's about like, whoa, there's no access to decision making on tree. You know what I mean? So it's like, I could see how, I mean, I think we all kind of have to get comfortable being like, is this cross-cutting? Is it its own thing? But, you know, so I just want to say, like, I appreciate that feedback, and I'm with you on trying to figure out how to make it stand out in a way that it deserves. So specifically about Franklin Park, I jotted down your earlier comment because I thought to myself, like, aha, I came here to listen to priorities. I just heard a priority. I'm going to talk to Reverend Mariama and maybe Ryan just to figure out like what's sort of like the immediate that I need to get up to speed on about, like, is this a long-standing issue? Is it an issue that's changed in shape? And I would say, like, I like to work through the folks who have, like, first work through the folks who have the organizational responsibility, and then like see how I can kind of pull others into it. So you can follow up with me, and I'm going to lean on the open space and parks side of the staff for that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Oliver. It is 12 o'clock. I know you have to go. Allison does have her hand up. I don't know what you wanted, if you can answer or talk, or what do you, should we move on, or?
I'm so sorry, but I really do have to go to this one. If this was in person, you could all probably like hold on to my arm and drag me, but I hope to come back and meet with your individual groups and in different permutations. And just thank you again for having me and for making the time to have these meetings.
Absolutely, Oliver. And can we can share your email with our?
No, please don't. Yes, of course.
All right. So Allison, you can email
out there. Okay. Yes, please do. And have a great weekend.
All right. Thank you. So everyone, thank you all for being here today. I have put the buff survey in our chat, and I really appreciate everyone's feedback. It really does help shape our future Buff meetings. And thank you all so much. Zoe, really appreciate you being here. Thank you everyone who attended today's Buff meeting, or this month's Buff meeting. And we will see you next month on November 11th, I believe it is. I think. Oh, can you put up the screen, David? All right, yes, November 11th. And we look forward to seeing you all then. Please register and have a wonderful weekend. And if you're going to come by to Roxbury tomorrow at the Thornton Street Farm, come by and say hello. We'd be happy to see you. Thanks, everybody.